Hey guys, I know it's been a while. It's been a crazy month, but I figured it was time to finally update y'all on what's been happening. I'm currently writing to you from the hospital. Don't worry, I'm okay for the most part. Right, so the screaming. I get out of the car and bury the evidence, and then I hear that terrible scream. I told you I couldn't tell if it was a fox or not, and part of me is still unsure. It was an ear ringing. It didn't sound like someone was in distress for sure, but it didn't sound good. It didn't sound like what I expect a kid to sound like. I'm not sure. I thought I was going nuts. It sounded like some stuff from a horror movie. All fake. Maybe it was fake. I have no idea. All I do know is that the scream kept happening throughout the night. I remember the first night. I was trying to understand what had happened in the past few days, trying to sit there and make sense of it all. 3 days ago, I was a normal dude. Now, I'm a fugitive, and probably an alleged child killer or something. It was easy to ponder my current situation given how silent it was, until the scream came again. Every time it happened, it seemed to come from a different place. That was the most unsettling part about it. It didn't really seem to come from anywhere. It changed often. So, maybe it was a fox. But it didn't sit well with me. The moon was out that first night. It gave some light to the trees, and I hoped it would stay out all night. But soon, the clouds came. The clouds were low and moved fast to block my only light source. I didn't want to use my flashlight or make a fire or anything. I have no idea who is out here, and no idea if they would be able to see either of those things. For all I know, they already know I'm here, and are toying with me like a lion does to a gazelle. Once the moon was covered, I got worried. A few feet in front of me was just darkness. There it was again, that scream. That loud, deafening scream. This time, though, it was closer, but I couldn't see anything. I almost pissed myself when it got that close. I like to think of myself as a rational human, but right then and there, I wondered if it was a ghost, a spirit, or even some demon. It's incredible, isn't it? All that stuff man does. Go to the moon, all that. Put us in the forest in the middle of the night, and we'll believe in the supernatural. Fear can really do wonders on your mind. I tried my best just to breathe slowly and stay calm. I kept checking my watch, hoping the time would pass by faster. I needed that goddamn sun to come back. I can't see anything here. I was so tired, my eyes could not stay open. My friend once gave me some mylar sheets for sleeping in the woods. I think they're to keep you warm. It was already pretty warm, but I felt like I needed to be warmer. I contemplated sleep. It sounded good, but one part of my brain always came back saying like it sounded like a bad idea. My eyes started to close. I was sitting up against a tree and could feel my body begin to fall asleep. Then, it screamed again. This time, further away. I was wide awake again. Then, there was another one. This one, I could tell was human. I could definitely tell. It had that specific cry in that humans do. No dog, or anything like that. Whatever just screamed was a girl. She screamed once, and that was it. No other noise like that came throughout the night. It didn't matter though. I wasn't gonna sleep. I just stared into the emptiness waiting for another scream, and hoping It sounded more fox than human. I woke up and the sun was back. The sky was gray and dead of color. I never realized I even went to sleep. I never even realized I went to sleep. I was covered in leaves and wet. It must have rained, I guess. Or that dew point that happens in the morning. I got up and my back cracked 1,000 times. I felt like crap and damn, I was hungry. The forest was quiet for now. Just the sounds of bugs in the creek nearby. It was nice to not hear that screaming for a little while. I got up and was covered in bugs. A centipede raced away from under my shirt. I almost puked, and this is why I never go camping. I almost puked, and this is why I never go camping. I needed to get a move on though. I was wasting time taking in the morning. I needed to go catch some fish for breakfast and then, I guess, find the psycho. There was still something odd about the forest, even without the screaming. It just felt dead, like gray all around. Even though it was the middle of summer, this forest felt dead. I mean, the leaves were green, but I don't know. They didn't feel like it. I kept walking to where I heard the water from. You know that old adage of looking up while you walk? My dad used to yell at me all the time to look up so you can watch where you're walking. That stuff only works for sidewalks in the city, where the only obstacle is gum. Suddenly, I tripped and fell on my face. I made a big noise doing it too, so I got plenty worried. I was already sweating balls somehow. If you could imagine, I was sweating more than balls. I looked down on what I had tripped on. It was a snare. I untied it and scrambled away. That is horrifying. I got trapped. Who does that? I thought maybe I'm close to where the killer is. Then, I hope not, since I had made so much noise. But then, I looked closer at the snare. It wasn't even a snare. It was tied to a tree branch. I looked up and could see exactly where the branch had snapped. It wasn't a snare. It was a noose. I looked at it more closely. Sure enough, there was blood on one half of the ring. I just stared at it. Where was I? What was I doing? Am I looking at a noose? A small noose, mind you. Not one you'd use for an adult. It just fit my ankle. I honestly still don't know how to describe it. The moment was surreal. The noose just sat there, not going away. It was real. It was really there. I touched it to make sure. As I did, I got chills down my spine when I did. Finally, after what felt like hours of looking at the noose, I stood up and started walking again. I had forgotten about my map. Crap, what did I do with my map? I checked my pockets and it wasn't there. It must have fallen out while I was sleeping. Now, I'm lost in this woods, with no navigational skills. I just used my ears and listened for the creek. I kept following the noise, and kept not finding the creek. A few times I swore I had seen the same tree. Then, I remembered that thing from elementary school about using the sun. I tried that. It at least helped to make sure I was going straight when I thought I was. I had no idea how long I was walking for. I kept hearing the creek, but couldn't get to it. Is there something like a mirage for your ears? Maybe it's just the sounds of the forest. I have no clue what the hell a forest really sounds like. I'm from the city. I turned around to see if the noise changed. Sure enough, it did. Well, I guess it's not the sound of the forest. In the middle of my little test, I heard an engine. It sounded like a diesel engine on an ATV or something. I found the nearest bush and trees and ducked into them. The noise was actually very far away. It was very faint once I paid attention to it. It must have been the adrenaline that made it seem so close, but I'm not sure. I listened and all of a sudden the motor was gone. Back to the forest and creek sounds again. I sat in the brush for a bit. It was nice. I found a spot that was nice and tight. I felt secure for the first time in a while, actually. Jesus, that sounds so stupid. But it did. I stayed there for a bit, letting myself calm down, and then I took a piss and had to get walking again. My legs were tired. My stomach would not shut up, and my mouth was as dry as a desert. It felt fuzzy. It was just so dry. My head started to pound. I get that when I'm dehydrated, even a little bit. Brilliant me didn't bring a water bottle on the journey. I figured I'd be able to find the creek. I have no idea when I'll see water again. I just sat down and took a break. My legs were all wobbly. They were done, and I needed to rest. When I sat down, I heard the distinctive crushing of leaves. Again, I bolted for cover. My legs were sore beyond belief. My adrenaline did its thing. I was hiding now and just listened. Crunch, crunch, crunch. And then whatever it was just ran away. It could have been a deer, I guess. How do you tell the difference between 2 legs and 4 just by ear? I looked at my legs. They were shaking. It must have been 100 degrees out today. It's been an insane summer. Seriously though, I hate this heat. I lied down and just relaxed finally. My legs were very happy with that plan. Then I remembered why I was here. This isn't a hike in the woods. I'm trying to find this person so I don't go to jail. In a few hours, I began starving and was thirsty again, and forgot I was a fugitive. I tried getting back up, but my legs are fed up. I need to take a nap. I roll my head all the way back, but instead of seeing more forest, there's a cave. A little hollow cave. Something I imagined bears would sleep in or something like that. The cave was a little below the ground, like there was a divot that led to it. I stood up slowly, as my legs still hurt, and tried to see if there was anything in there. It is summer, so I don't expect any bears, right? I'm not really sure how bears work. But then, what was in there? Somehow was worse than a bear and more unbelievable than that noose. There were 2 dead bodies in the cave, old and decomposed. They were covered in muck and leaves. I went to the cave to look at them better. They were just small skeletons, about half my size. I remember when I saw King Tut's mummified body. They looked to be about the same size as him. Their eyes were gone. They were just skeletons. They were chained to the wall, and the chain was rusted and broken. There was even a pile of poop behind them. I kid you not, these poor kids slept with their poop. This guy is way worse than I thought. I thought it was CP. No, this dude is beyond insanity. I'm in his forest too. I'm here. Those screams couldn't have been a fox. Look at this. Those screams had to be human. But were they real, like the noose? I mean, I wouldn't touch the children. I couldn't. I was sure that they were there. I'll level with you. I've never seen a dead body before. Not like this. I've been to funerals, of course. I've seen my grandma lay there and stuff. But with the whole embalming thing, she looked more like a wax figure of the grandma I knew, and not a dead body. In funeral homes, there's no smell. The skin is plastic, and it looks fake. But here, no. It was very real. Bits of flesh were hanging off one of the kid's eye. I think the difference was that nature was doing its work in decomposing the bodies. That's really death. Decomposition. I heard some leaves crunching at the mouth of the cave. I'll tell you, these past few days have been an endless crescendo of fear. I used to be scared of snakes. Now, I don't know what I can tolerate. One second, I'm looking at two murdered, decomposed bodies, and not crying hysterically like I would have imagined. The next, I'm freaking out and ready to piss my pants at the sound of leaves. The sound begins to fade away. I was really scared then that someone was going to enter the cave. What would I have done? I finally left the cave and walked out towards the sound of the creek. Finally, I found it. It wasn't even that large. Not sure how I heard it from that far away. My stomach began roaring up a storm and my mouth was parched like I ate sand. I took my hands and began gulping the water. It was fairly clean water for the wild, see-through and all. There were some fish in that creek too. I have no nets and no fishing stuff though, so that meant I'll have to make shift out of something. I took a tree branch and broke it in a way that could be used as a spear. It took me several times breaking the branch for it to have a nice point. I used a rock to really shave it. I was quite proud of myself that I even made a spear. So, I go over and start poking the fish with it. After a minute of that, I gave up. I probably looked like an idiot to these fish. Some proud idiot poking rocks with a stick. I looked back at the stick and the point was gone. Here I am standing in the middle of this creek with my feet soaking wet. And of course, the thing decides to sweep me by my feet and throw me around into a rock. So now, I'm wet, hurt, and have no fishing spear. So, at this point, I gave up and realized what an idiot I was. I figured that I wasn't going to eat. I should at least drink some more water. After my sorry attempt at fishing, I crossed the creek and just kept heading in that direction. I had no idea where I was going. If I was honest with myself then, I would have just broken down and cried knowing I was lost in this forest out in the Long Island. But in that moment, something was telling me I was going in the right direction. For hours, all I had seen was an endless sea of trees and grass, with only that cave proving to me that I was in the killer's forest. But I finally found something else. It was a path. The rest of my walking was done off trail, but here there was a path. It was not a very well-defined one, though. You had to look at it to see it. But one you did notice that the trees were cut and the grass was kneaded in a way that showed it must have been a path. So I decided that this must be the killer's path for himself to get back into the woods, and I followed it. A few feet in, and I noticed tire marks, just like that of an ATV. That must have been what I heard earlier. My stomach had been giving me problems, annoying me about not eating. But soon, it started to simply hurt. The cramping was intense, and it made me buckle over to the side of this path. I had to try not to scream in pain. The pain wasn't that severe. It's just that I'm used to screaming for stomach pains. It usually just helps me feel better. I bit down on my shirt to stop the screaming, and finally the pain had stopped. But I felt the stuff below my stomach move. I knew what it meant. I was about to have diarrhea. I ran off the trail, as I didn't want to get caught. I flung my pants off just in time before I crapped myself. My head started to hurt again, too. This time, even more so. I don't know what happened, but now I feel like I'm getting sick as well. After that, I began walking back towards the path. My minor headache got worse and worse. I felt my head with the back of my hand, and sure enough, it was warm as hell. But I knew it was going there. I must have not gone in a straight direction. It was hard to know since I couldn't focus on anything for more than 2 seconds. My head was throbbing somewhat fierce. It happened finally. I broke down and began crying. I was in pain, hungry, running away from the police in a murderous forest. And now my senses are all screwed and my head doesn't want to work. I was just gonna die here. My life was in all likelihood over. I tried to throw up, but I hadn't eaten anything in about a day now. I heard we can go weeks without eating. I really hope that's true. Finally, my temperature started to rise more. My brain was making no sense of anything. I had no medicine on me, nothing, and I was truly and seriously screwed. As if it wasn't bad already, I had heard thunder. Now, I wasn't sure if it was real. Maybe it was just the pounding of my head that sounded like thunder. But no, I saw a flash of light and heard that crack of whip right after it. It was so loud, it had left my ears ringing. I ran a little more from it, purely in shock, until I tripped over myself and fell again. Great, now there's a thunderstorm to deal with. And as quickly as you can imagine, the sky got this dark, deep green. Almost pitch black, but yet I knew it was going to. I looked to my left, and in the corner of my eye, behind some bushes, I spotted what looked like a log cabin. I looked to my left, and in the corner of my eye, behind some bushes, I spotted to be what looked like a cabin. I stood up and hobbled over to it. Sure enough, it was there. A real log cabin. It was very small, a one-bedroom building. The wood was all rotted and the bed was destroyed. It looked like it had mold all over it. Part of the roof was bent and the whole cabin itself was warped. No one had been in this place for a while. The bed had a pink comforter on it, all torn up and dirty. Yeah, I know. I thought the same thing. But it started to rain outside, and the roof on this place was holding the water out at least. I thought through it, however, how much I could. As much as I could right then. I wasn't gonna lie on that bed. It would be rather morbid. But I lied down on the ground next to it. My eyes were aching. My head would not stop throbbing, and I just wanted this sickness to end. This pain just needed to go away. I lay down on the old warped floorboards. It felt oddly comfy in that moment. Hey everyone, we're almost at 2,000 subscribers and I want to thank you all so much for supporting me. It really means a lot to me. And with that said, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and hit that bell notification if you haven't. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and even donate to my Patreon if you're feeling generous. Thank you. Have a good night. And beautiful nightmares.